Hey everyone, welcome to the Oasis podcast. I'm your host, Miss AJ. Thanks for tuning in. An oasis is something that provides refuge, relief, or a pleasant contrast, and that is exactly what you will find tuning into the Oasis podcast. This is a space where I and special guests will be cultivating intentional and honest conversations about life's journey. Subscribe everywhere you listen to podcasts and watch us on YouTube now. Wouldn't you love to create your own personal oasis? What is an oasis, you ask? An oasis is something that provides refuge, relief, or a pleasant contrast, and that is exactly what you will find at AJO Consulting Services, LLC. AJO Consulting Services is a company that provides individuals, communities, and businesses of color with coaching and consulting services, personal and professional development, as well as social and community connection services. These services include, but are not limited to, dating, life, relationship, and business coaching, finance management, travel experience curation, wellness navigation, and much more. Are you ready to find, connect, and release? Come experience your oasis today. Visit our website to learn more at www.ajoconsultingservices.com. Follow us on Facebook at AJO Consulting and Instagram at AJO Consult. Also, email us at info@ajoconsultingservices.com.
Hey y'all, back with another episode. I hope you all have been enjoying the content so far. I didn't realize until now that I haven't done an episode of things I've learned to be true. And it's feeling like this season is giving a lot of those episodes. Because, baby, I've learned a lot of things to be true. I have a lot I want to share with you guys about pretty much the second half or the latter half of my pregnancy, as well as my postpartum journey and just life in general. And I just got to bring myself to actually sit down and record those episodes. But in the interim, when I have these little nuggets or these self-reflection moments, I'm going to share them with y'all because I know y'all got to relate. It can't be just me. So for this, things I've learned to be true. What to do when things don't go as planned. I know you guys, if you have ever heard the saying that God laughs when you make plans, that shit is absolutely accurate. And just sitting and thinking how you can be blessed and still not be fully as happy as you thought you would be, right? As those two things, two emotions, two sets of realities can exist at one time. And I'm reflecting on how last year, and by last year I mean 2022, which I'm not 100% sure if I shared with you all, but I might have. But by the end of 2022, I had literally accomplished 99.9% of everything that I had on my vision board, which was the first time ever, ever. There were some things even on my vision board that I had to replace on my vision board every year that I made a new vision board, right? I.e., buying my home, investment home, which you guys know that's been a journey for me, as well as having a baby, and just certain things like that. And it's crazy because as these things are happening, it's like you're just checking things off, right? You're checking the boxes. But it wasn't until I did a whole assessment, which was hard for me to do because by that point at the end of the year, I was very much so pregnant. I was around 6 months or so. And it was hard to just sit down and reflect like that. Like, it just, at least for me, I don't know. Again, I'll talk about it, but pregnancy was not fun. There's a lot to think about, and then at the same time, not wanting to think about too much so as to not get overwhelmed. So I didn't do as much reflecting and meditating on certain things as I would have. And I mentioned this today to a friend that when I was pregnant, I felt that I got disconnected spiritually. And I know that might sound odd, but it felt like all my energy just went to the pregnancy, sustaining the pregnancy, making sure I stayed healthy and above it all. And when I, kind of named some things that I did that year, it'll make sense, because I didn't want to just it just felt like a lot, to also feel like this level of obligation. And I guess that's being raised Catholic. There's this level of guilt that comes when it comes to religious practice. I want to say religious practice, because that's what it was when I was, a practicing Catholic. But sometimes I still hold those same feelings, even though I no longer follow a religion per se, but I'm more on the spiritual path. So I still sometimes feel a level of guilt, right? When I didn't meditate today, or I didn't pray a particular way today, or for a particular time, so I kind of just was like, you know what? I give praise, and I give gratitude when I can, when I have a moment to really think about it, whenever it pops into my head. But it wasn't a sit down and do this type of thing, dedicate the time, because it was just a lot. It was a lot to do last year or around that time. So last year, I really did so much, like a lot. So last year I started a new job. I officially started my business, even though I had, been kind of marketing it or promoting it, or just kind of building the brand and, taking on clients. I officially started the business for real, which was a lot. I, bought my home. I co-published a book. I, was traveling. I got pregnant. And all these things. Oh, yeah, and I got certified to be a life coach. All these things were happening sometimes at the same time, but they just was like boom, 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 boom. And I was just doing them, right? Again, in older episodes, early on in COVID, I said, you know what? I'm going to take this time to be still, take this time to really get into me and heal and grow, and all the things I wouldn't be able to do if COVID didn't happen, because I would have just been on the go. And it wasn't until something forced my ass to sit down that I would have sat to do those things. Whereas COVID, and by something forcing me, meaning some situation, that probably wasn't positive. So when COVID happened, and granted, COVID was not a positive thing, but COVID was a thing that happened to everyone, right? That, I don't want to say that allowed me, because everyone didn't have that, but it allowed me to still maintain work, but still be able to sit and be reflective and just sit and be, and I told myself, and I know for a lot of people it was hard to sit still, and at first, I don't know, actually I can't even say at first it was more a feeling of oh, I don't know how this is going to turn out, right? I don't know if I can do this long term, but it wasn't hard necessarily to just go on and do it. And that could be because I had the podcast, so I had other things going on. I was in therapy and stuff, so maybe that made it easier, but it was great being able to have that time to sit down. So now let's fast forward. I got a good, 2 years of being able to just sit and focus and figure out how to do things, figure out the things I wanted to do and then how to do them. And so, and I knew, and I would say this to people, like, I'm going to enjoy this time of nothingness because I know once life starts, it's going to be fast paced. It's just going to go, right? And that's exactly what the hell happened. Like, just 2 years later, once 2022 started, it was mad shit. Like, and I was focused. I was ready. I went into the year like, oh, it's going down. And God granted all the things. You feel me? Like, God granted all the things. And I think I'm also going to do another things I've learned to be true about being prepared for what you pray for. But this episode is really talking about what happens when things don't go as planned. So I did all the planning and all the things went down, and I can still sit here and say things didn't go as planned. They did not, right? Even though all the things got accomplished, if that makes sense. It's such an odd space to be in, to be honest. But when I tell you, I went into it full heart, full mind, full spirit of, we're going to do these things. We're going to knock it out. If it don't happen, at least initially it's like, if it don't happen, then it's cool, but things happen. I think also that, if it don't happen, that thing is like, I'm going to have this mindset so that I don't get disappointed if it doesn't happen. But when the thing happened, you're sitting there like, oh shit. You know what I mean? And when you check off all these boxes, but then what you expect to feel or expect to happen after just doesn't, it's such an interesting, odd place to sit. Because on one hand, you want to be grateful, right? Because other people didn't accomplish these things. Other people lost their lives. Other people are still trying to, figure shit out. Other people are just trying to survive. And here you go, just doing things that you would have survived without, in a way that, like, things you didn't need, but things you wanted. You know what I mean? And that's amazing. And you want to sit in that space of joy and celebration. But then these things happen, and the end result of these things happening just leaves you in an odd space. You know what I mean? Because now, what's next? And that's a question that I'm learning doesn't have to have an answer, right? You did enough, bitch. Just like, sit down. You know what I'm saying? But also wanting to keep growing and experiencing things. And I'm still navigating that right now. And this episode is not going to leave with any solution, to be 100% honest. And if anyone has a solution, please share. But it's just acknowledging the space, that sometimes you do all the things and it just does not go as you thought it would. You don't feel what you thought you would feel. You don't see what you thought you would see, And so do you find new things, right? Do you accept as is and just keep pushing and see what might turn out? I don't know. I really don't know. I'm gonna figure it out though. And I've been feeling lost in the sauce for a little bit. And again, it's a crazy thing because it's like, being so focused and then hitting these targets, but at the same time still feeling kind of like you're swaying in the wind. you know? And again, I mentioned, feeling like I kind of let go of my spirituality. Of course, never forgot God. God hold, baby. Whew. God has held me down and in a lot of ways saved my life this past year and change. And let me not get my ass get all emotional and shit, but really tapping in, you know what I mean, on that day to day, even when, yes, when things aren't good, but when things are good, and I miss feeling that level of joy of knowing God is in me, God is within me, and because I know God, because God is running through and through all things and touching everything in my life, that makes me feel a sense of knowing me, and I mentioned before in my past episodes of when I started trusting myself and knowing myself, and that's when I truly found God, and vice versa. And I want to get back to that place, and slowly but surely, I feel like I'm tapping back into that, but it took a while for me, and I also had to make peace with that things ain't always going to be the same, meaning you going through certain things, and people have something like their certain process. It was also hard after having a whole human to figure out what's going to work for me now, right? Oh, I can't do my usual process because I have a whole person I have to take care of, and my brain don't function the same, my body is not functioning the same, I don't have time in the same way, and so that was difficult. But what I do know is that is the answer. You know what I mean? And for me, and right now, right? I don't know if that's going to change, but right now it is bringing me a sense of feeling more grounded. That in therapy, okay? Because y'all know I don't play about therapy. Y'all better go to therapy, but don't just go. Do the work. You know what I mean? Those are the two things that I think is going to help me navigate this space. I don't know if it's a bad space. It's just a space I wasn't expecting, And I thought I'll just share that. But please, if anyone is feeling the same or have felt the same in the past and something has worked for you, please share. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you for tuning into this week's episode of the Oasis podcast. I hope you were able to find something that resonated with you on your journey. Don't forget to subscribe anywhere you listen to podcasts and YouTube. Rate us and leave us a review and comment on Apple Podcasts, iTunes, and YouTube. Share your favorite episode and like us on Instagram and Facebook. If you have any questions, comments, want to be a guest, or any show ideas, contact us at ajaysoasis@gmail.com. That's AAYJAYSOASIS@gmail.com, or direct message us on Instagram and Facebook.